Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. For the fifth consecutive year, the funding of government's programs in the financial year will not include any new taxes. Instead, several new measures will be implemented and existing ones continued to drive growth. These will be done under the focus areas of recovery, reform, and restoration. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark gave a comprehensive outline during his opening presentation of the budget debate last Tuesday, and here's a recap from the minister.
In terms of recovery, in the past year, Madam Speaker, we had quarterly economic growth of between 5.8 and 14%, which is the highest growth achieved in 50 years, albeit after a record contraction the year before. The number of jobs have increased by over 100,000, resulting in unemployment at 7.1%. Our debt to GDP ratio is on track to being lower at the end of this year than at any time in the last 22 years. We are going to follow up recovery with reform. We're going to deepen financial inclusion with the creation of low-risk, less stringent, know your customer accounts, where you will pay no banking fees. We're going to deepen financial inclusion with central bank digital currency, Jamdex, where you can pay and transfer anytime, anywhere, with no bank fees. We're going to implement a new and modern efficient custom regime and revamp the tax system. We're going to strengthen governance and audit and oversight mechanisms to increase independence and engender greater trust among the public. We'll strengthen the capabilities of our public sector through continuing the Marcus Garvey Scholarship Program and put in place comprehensive pension reform to secure better pensions and allow workers to carry their pensions with them if they leave their jobs. We'll implement the comprehensive public sector compensation restructuring to make our public sector compensation fairer, easier to understand, transparent, easily understood, sustainable, affordable, in a way that recognizes and rewards performance. In terms of restoration, Madam Speaker, here are some of the actions we have taken to accelerate this path. We launched the first catastrophe bond of any small island country in the world. We're investing $13 billion, a record, higher by at least 50% over the prior year, in loans and credit supports to MSMEs. We're investing $10 billion in private equity and venture capital to help early stage companies and SMEs, and we're attracting $1 billion in integrated resorts developments to enhance and deepen our tourism project. We plan to come to market with, Madam Speaker, over $200 billion of infrastructure projects over the next 3 years. We're advancing on unemployment insurance for Jamaicans. And for the seventh consecutive year, we're not imposing any new taxes on the people of Jamaica because we believe you're best positioned to decide how to spend your money. Madam Speaker, we're establishing $2 billion in provision to protect the most vulnerable Jamaicans and those least unable to absorb the impact of very high oil prices. As we speak, Madam Speaker, we're rolling out $200 million of support through Food for the Poor, through the International Red Cross, United Way, and other charitable organizations as we increase support for the vulnerable. We'll roll out $500 million more of food support starting in April, involving MPs and councillors, Madam Speaker. And in addition, as I mentioned earlier, 100,000 Jamaicans who establish low-risk KYC accounts after April 1 will benefit from a deposit of $22,500 from the government of Jamaica. We're implementing a new digital currency, Jamdex, which will bring the underbanked into the formal system and make doing business easier and cheaper. Up to 100,000 Jamaicans who, after April 1st, establish Jamdex digital currency accounts will benefit from a deposit of $2,500 from the government of Jamaica.
All right, that was the recap by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark. Now in studio, we have financial analyst Dr. Adrian Stokes to help us understand what we just heard. Welcome to the program, Dr. Stokes.
It's good to be here.
All right, let's jump right into it. Let's start with the thing that caught everybody's attention at the first. No new taxes. Is this a positive move? And financial analyst is the title, so I know you can tell us this. Since this isn't the first time we've heard this, what has been the track record of no new taxes?
It's a very good thing for the Jamaican public. The track record for this minister in particular, I think he's going into his 5th year without any new taxes, or at least net new taxes.
Right.
And it really shows that the sacrifice that the Jamaican population has made over these years is paying off, because the government of Jamaica is expected to run a fiscal surplus as well as a primary surplus this year, and there will be no new taxes. So it really shows that the economy is on a sound footing, notwithstanding the vagaries of the global situation that we're seeing and COVID.
I see. All right, so no new taxes, but I know some people were hoping for the rollback of some of the ones that existed before.
Yes.
Gas tax, for example. That didn't happen.
Yes.
Didn't have a rollback of that. But instead, the minister mentioned that a $2 billion fund will be established to absorb the impact of increased gas and energy costs on the vulnerable. How important is this? And if you can give us an idea of how this should be navigated.
Right. First, let me say, in fairness to the minister, he made the point quite clearly that the government, in fact, has been giving back taxes over the last couple of years. In fact, he highlighted that in 2020, GCT was reduced, and that contributes about $14 billion per annum in give back. So he and the government has been giving back.
So not a repeal, but a...
It's more of a continuation, and how can the government find additional sources of revenue to alleviate the impact of high energy prices on the Jamaican populace. They have come up with a $2 billion fund. To his credit, again, the government's credit, they have indicated that they will get feedback to arrive at the best way how to distribute this fund, and importantly, to ensure that the fund is properly targeted to the most vulnerable in the society, which is what you want to do. And persons will argue that it's not enough, but I think it's a glass half full kind of measure.
And it's a start.
Yes.
A start. All right. I want us to quickly just look at a few of the things that he mentioned. We heard these keywords. Under the reform process, government has broadened the scope for financial inclusion. And the minister mentioned, in pursuit of economic growth, the Know Your Customer account. What's that about? Just quickly.
Yes. So Know Your Customer accounts, or KYC, is really about ensuring that each customer that comes into a financial institution, a bank in particular, is properly accounted for in terms of who they are, right? Your antecedents, right? Ensuring that the bank is dealing with someone of good character, and importantly, that person can pass muster. And it's very, very important in terms of when it comes to preventing certain criminal activities, for example, money laundering. Very, very important for KYC to be an important feature of the financial sector.
All right, we're getting a bit of information there. We're getting the facts. He also mentioned the Customs Act, the push to repeal and replace the Customs Act. We've heard this before. Anything new here that you can comment on?
The big thing here is that there is a commitment. The Customs Act has been in place since 1941, I believe. So longer than I think both of us have been alive.
Definitely.
Right. So, and this goes to doing business, right? Improving the doing business climate and the environment in Jamaica, which means therefore that it will, be a boost to overall economic activity. If people find it easier to move goods through the ports, then definitely that can only redound to greater economic activity.
And I know this vibes well with the drive to digitize Jamaica, those digital products coming in. All right, I'm gonna toss one more on the pile. The minister mentioned something about employees being able to carry their pensions with them. And I feel that went under the heading of moving to repeal and replace the Pensions Act.
Right. So pension is very important to Jamaica's long-term development. Why? Because it represents long-term savings that can be channeled to long-term growth opportunities. What the minister mentioned was about improving portability of pensions, which means making it easier for persons leaving job A to take their pensions to job B without cashing out and using that pension. That's very, very important.
Let me just
Yes.
come in here. You said without cashing out, it means I don't get the money. My pension plan just continues.
Just continues with the next employer, which is very, very important because today what obtains, in some instances, if you're leaving job A, then you are given a check.
Right.
And importantly, what happens is that you inevitably go and spend that money as opposed to investing for that time in life when you will need it more or most.
All right, we're going to take a break. We do want to talk about public sector transformation, so don't go anywhere. We're going to continue with our breakdown of the budget presentation right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Get the Facts. We are discussing the 2022-2023 budget with financial analyst Dr. Adrian Stokes. In the first segment, we looked at the recovery and the reform pathways to economic growth. Now we're going to continue discussing the restoration methods, the measures that are put in place for this. These are aimed at putting Jamaica back on a sustainable course, allowing more Jamaicans to achieve their dreams. Dr. Stokes, we're going to go fast.
Sure.
And we're going to deal with a lot of things because this budget presentation was full. So let's start with the $13 billion in loans and credit support to MSMEs, all right? And $10 billion in private equity and venture capital to SMEs. What's the goal here?
Very, very important. To drive economic growth, you need entrepreneurial persons in the society to have access to credit.
Right.
And that's what these funds are meant to do. To give them lubricant, to give them liquidity, importantly to give them patient capital so that they can take risk, they can innovate and help to drive the economy forward.
The minister announced infrastructure development over the next 3 years amounting to over $200 billion. Is this exciting? Or my questions, we hear the stuff,
Yes.
but I suppose the general gist of my questions is, how should we feel about this?
Well, first, I think let's not applaud the announcement just yet.
Right.
We should recognize that the intent is good, right? Since 2008, the government of Jamaica has been largely executing these infrastructure projects by doing government-to-government partnerships. For example, government of Jamaica with China.
Right.
What the minister is saying is that the economy is improving or has improved significantly, so much so that the government can now look to transition to government and private sector partnering to execute these infrastructure projects, which would be significant if it happens. Let's not applaud the announcement just yet.
I noticed, though, that this definitely ties into the first thing that you mentioned, private citizens being able to provide services and do different things. So it fits in there. Maybe not MSMEs.
Yes, maybe not MSMEs, right.
It's in there. All right. The $1 billion Integrated Resorts Initiative. We've heard about this a little bit.
Yes. So it is an idea that has been on the table for a while. What it seems is like the government and the minister is giving greater impetus to this idea. So much so that there are 2 projects that have been highlighted.
Right.
And investment of at least $1 billion USD is to come. Again, let's not applaud. Let us say it's a good idea, and hopefully we'll see it being executed. But if it is executed, $1 billion USD will be significant to our economy and obviously improve our growth opportunities.
All right. The catastrophe bond.
Yes.
He highlighted that.
Yes.
Did he give a figure here? All right, just talk to us about that, disaster reduction.
Again, it's a very good initiative. It adds, something to Jamaica's toolkit as it relates to managing disasters. And as you know, we are in a disaster-prone region.
Right.
And therefore, the disaster bond represents an important initiative because what it does, it is a way for the government to raise revenues, dedicated revenue
to recovery.
Right, to put aside for recovery.
Is this just recovery or is this resilience building as well?
It could be for resilience building as well, absolutely. So, you know, I like how you put that resilience building, which is absolutely important, something given our susceptibility to natural disasters, given where we sit geographically, it's very, very important to build our resilience.
Definitely, the proactive approach.
Proactive approach, absolutely.
All right, we're coming down. The social support side. There's $200 million for needy persons, not on the PATH program. And based on my data here, that's 10,000 one-off grants or so. And he also mentioned a $250 million care packages to vulnerable persons to assist with food costs. Is this going to move the needle?
It's an important step. The key to this is to ensure that it is well targeted. In other words, it gets to those who need it most. Right? That's a key to this. So you could always ask for a bigger budget for these types of social input. But the fact of the matter is it's an important step, and we can all hope that it is well targeted and therefore it goes to those that are most in need of the support.
We are almost out of time, and I'm going to ask you to do analysis. We've discussed disaster reduction, integrated resorts initiative, infrastructure development, MSMEs. These are all different areas in the economy. Putting all this together, what sort of outlook, if these things come to pass, what sort of outlook can we see towards the economy? Is it looking good?
Jamaica is an improving story, and it has continued on its upward trajectory. So much so that I think yesterday, Jamaica was given a stable outlook by one of the major rating agencies. Right, so it really shows that the economy has stabilized well, and the prospects going forward are good. Notwithstanding, there are important risks to our economy, given everything that's happening with the geopolitical tensions, given our susceptibility to natural disasters and so on. But importantly, the macroeconomic policies, certainly on the fiscal side, are geared to move in the country in the right direction.
And we have seen movement in this area.
We have seen movement in this area, absolutely.
Okay, that is, I want to ask you, this is the last question I'm going to ask. This is at the government level. This is what the government plans to do. What does the citizen, how is the citizen involved in all of this?
The important thing from government policy is to empower its citizens, is to create an environment where persons will have opportunities to grow and develop themselves. And I think with a lot of what was announced, certainly as it relates to, giving the MSME sector in particular, capital to fund, entrepreneurial activities, I think that's a good thing, and it will help to empower Jamaicans to take risks, to innovate, and to see those ideas come into fruition.
And having a public sector that is agile and well rewarded, the minister did speak about that too. I'm sure that ties into the growth agenda.
Very, very important. So much of what we do is tied up to the public bureaucracy, and therefore reforming that, ensuring that it is agile, and importantly, it is giving value, then that will also add to the good foundation that is being laid for overall development of the country.
We have gotten a great deal of facts. Thank you so much, Dr. Stokes, for joining us. We have been speaking about the budget presentation that our Finance Minister, Dr. Nigel Clarke, has presented to the nation, the 2022-2023 budget, and the outlook, cautious optimism. So we thank Dr. Adrian Stokes for giving us his financial analysis on all of this. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. This has been Get the Facts. Take care.